felt like something was very wrong with me, and there must be something wrong with me, because not only has it happened once or twice, it's happened multiple times by many different people. I everything I already felt about myself. I hated me to begin with, and it's just one more reason to hate me. If someone else is the problem, there is no solution. If you're the problem, then we have something to work with. So it was so much freedom knowing I did this to me. Nobody did it to me. And so I have to face my consequences. Words were, are you willing to go to any lengths to stay sober? And I said, yes, ma'am. So all of a sudden, my life became so amazing. I was free of all of these secrets and things that I had held on to my whole life. Things that weren't even mine to hold on to.
What is up and what is popping, y'all? It's your girl Jazzy
and Sanya, Full Circle Podcast Show, baby. Yeah.
Woo! We are so thrilled to have the queen of all queens, Angela, here to tell you her life journey with addictions, going through her trials and tribulations to overcome her life journey, just to be the queen of all queens, of course, and to find her purpose and to be a service to others. And we're just thrilled to hear her journey and for her to share her journey with you all, because I know y'all gonna resonate with it, because I know I definitely have.
Very honored.
And Angela, we're just honored to have you here. Thank you for being here. Our second
special guest, y'all.
Absolutely, our second. Yay! Okay, perfect. So let's start off with when you were born. Okay.
Who are you? Who's Angela?
Who is Angela?
I was born in August 1968, Shreveport, Louisiana. My mom and dad, they hadn't been married that long when my mom got pregnant with me. I love that story. I have to tell it, that she thought she had the flu, and the doctor said it's the 9-month flu. You're so precious. And so before they met, they had dated. I mean, he came from a good family, she came from a good family. My mom had started raising kids when she was 12. She was taking care of brothers and sisters. So by the time my dad asked her to marry him, I think she just wanted to get out of the house, because you met somebody, you got married, that's what you did back then. And so she found out pretty quickly, when they were married, they got stationed in California for a little while, that he drank every day. And that not only did he drink every day, but he became violent when he drank. And so my mom, there was no way she'd have put up with that. It'd have been like a burning bed situation. She was like, no. And so she left before I was 2 and moved back in with my grandparents back in Louisiana. And my dad eventually came back to Louisiana, and I would visit him on weekends. But, they were divorced before divorce was a thing. So I went to Catholic school and Catholic church, and no one around me had divorced parents. So I already felt like a weirdo, an outcast. I never felt like I fit. I mean, I think I was kind of born not feeling like I fit, like that square peg in a round hole. And it just, those kinds of things just made it worse. And so I would visit my dad on weekends, and there was lots of drinking, and he remarried when I was 5.
Like, he was doing lots of drinking?
Yes. My dad would pick me up on the weekends, and he would have a bottle of Southern Comfort between his legs and Schlitz Malt Liquor Bull in the back seat and a Coke in that little thing on the floorboard, and he proceeded to drink.
So that was like his H2O?
That was it. And
okay.
And God bless him, he behaved badly. And, he remarried when I was 5. He married my stepmom, and God bless her, she was a young thing, and he would black out and he would hurt her and then not remember it the next day. So,
oh, wow.
Would you bring it up, or were you scared to bring it up? Okay.
No, ma'am. We didn't talk about, the elephant in the living room. No, we don't discuss that ever. And if my stepmom would say something like, he would say, where'd you get those bruises? And she'd be like, you. And he would call her a liar. I didn't do that. That kind of thing. He honestly didn't remember doing it.
Right.
So there was all kinds of stuff going on in the house, and people, I don't want to, that sounds awful. Family members, but like distant family members, would maybe stay there, or people that lived near my grandparents. I started being sexually assaulted. Sounds really weird to me, but messed with sexually, because I was a child, and so. I already felt like something was very wrong with me, And there must be something wrong with me, because not only has it happened once or twice, it's happened multiple times by many different people. And
so were you just a victim?
Well, that's what it felt like. Yeah. Certainly felt that way. And my mom, you know, she was young, and she wanted to have her weekends when I would go to my dad's, and then sometimes during the week she would take me to my grandparents, and she would go out. She wasn't a bad mom. She was just young. She did the best that she could, but one particular weekend, some heavy stuff had happened, and I don't even remember exactly what it was that happened. It was just a friend of a friend of a friend that used to come visit over there, and an older person that knew better had done something to me that weekend, and it was pretty hard to get over. And so when I went home, my mom, she knew something was wrong, and she asked me what's wrong, and I, of course, told her nothing. You know, I kept
mother's
saying
intuition.
nothing.
Yeah, but you were scared.
I continued to say nothing, but after, I don't know how long, she just said, you know, we're not going anywhere till you tell me what's going on.
Oh, wow.
And so I might have been 7, maybe 8. And so I went ahead and told her, and the first thing out of her mouth, I don't know where this came from, because, I don't know, it had to come from God, I guess. First thing out of her mouth was, you know, this is not your fault. And I said yes, but I did not believe that. I believed it was my fault. It had to be my fault. And so something in me kind of broke at that point, but it actually not at that point, because it kind of felt like somebody was sticking up for me. My mom called my dad, told him what was going on, and that person was not allowed to be at the house, but only for a couple of weeks. And then that person was allowed to come back. And when that happened, I felt like I just didn't count. I didn't matter. And not only was that person allowed to come back over, but I was made to go in the other room with that person when they wanted to be alone. Yes. And he tried it again when that happened, and I guess because I had already told once, and the look on my face, he was afraid. He said, "Oh, I'm sorry, I won't do that again." And I just kind of tried to go in another room and stay clear of him. It was a jacked up situation, but you know, it wasn't just him. There were people that lived down the street from my grandmother, and
but it started to be continuous. So you're like, you too,
yeah,
like you started to feel like,
and what is it that's wrong with me?
Am I causing this?
Yeah, that continues to make this happen. So devastating when you're a little girl, and then when he was allowed to come back, I know now that my dad he couldn't deal with something like that happening to his little girl, and he was drinking anyway, so it was just easier to drink it away, and no, that didn't really happen. And I don't know, maybe he thought my mom made it up. I mean, I don't know, you know. I know that there are people that do stuff like that, but it was
for attention,
certainly, it was certainly not made up, and it was very difficult to deal with. But my mom remarried my stepfather when I was 8, and he got transferred to Edmond, Oklahoma when I was 12, right before I turned 13. My dad bought me a horse when I was little, and that little horse saved me. I mean, there would be so much going on in the house, and I would take my little brother, Sean. Gotta mention Sean, greatest brother.
Shout out to
Sean.
And Daniel.
And Daniel, yes.
Greatest brothers ever. They really are just good humans. I'm like, my brother Sean is a police officer. It's like, aren't you glad you had all those years with your criminal sister? Because now you know what to look for.
I set you up for success.
There you
are going to do the greatest job ever. So, we got transferred. That little horse, I would live in the barn if I could, and my dad wouldn't let me. I just wanted to. I tried to protect my little brother from the stuff that was going on in the house. It was just bad. And, you know, I couldn't save my stepmom. I wanted to, but I couldn't. I was terrified to even speak up and say anything. And I was terrified of everything, pretty much. From the time I was born afraid. So, my stepfather got transferred to Oklahoma, and we moved there. And I, you know, growing up in Louisiana, I played in the dirt and had hay in my hair. And we moved to Oklahoma, where all the girls wore makeup and Nikes and Izods and just, you know, all these things I'd never heard of before, and I was really a weirdo now, and I just wanted to move back to Shreveport just to be with, you know, my aunts and uncles were closer to my age, and my grandmother, my mom's mom, and I went and visited my dad for a summer, and things had really calmed down. He wasn't as violent, it wasn't as volatile in the home, And my little brother was a little older, and I just wanted to move back there because I hated Oklahoma. Nothing against Oklahoma. I just, they were a bunch of fast girls, and I wasn't there yet. It didn't take me long to get there. So I met the girl next door. Up until this point, I've been a pretty good kid. I follow the rules. I say yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. I do all the things
You're
I'm
obedient.
supposed to do. Very. And I had a great deal of supervision when we lived in Shreveport. And when we moved to Oklahoma, my mom had this job where she'd be gone from 10 in the morning till 10 at night. Oh. And if she was gone, my stepfather, when he got off work, he would just go out. He wouldn't even come home. So I had all this freedom that I'd never had before. And the girl next door asked me to go do something one day, and I had asked permission to do the things she asked me. And when we went to leave, we went the opposite direction of where she said we were going to go. And I said, what are we doing? And she said, well, we're not really doing that. I just need to get you out of the house. We're going to go do this. And I thought, what?
You're like, that's
naughty. That's a lie. We can do that? I don't think I can do that. I think something might explode. If I do that, I don't think I can lie. Right. And she said, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. So when I got away with it, I thought, I'm going to do this as often as possible.
Again.
I'm going to take advantage of this.
Like, what else can I do?
So it was just a matter of time before the kids I was hanging out with, they were drinking and doing all kinds of stuff. And for me, growing up the way I grew up and seeing my dad behave the way he did, I thought something in me said, you don't want to drink because you'll be just like your dad. But drugs will probably be okay because, that's sane thinking. So I started smoking pot first. And then I started drinking, and it was probably within the month of smoking pot that I was drinking, and the magic happened, and I felt like all of a sudden I could breathe.
Because it was like numbing what you were obviously not wanting to feel.
All the things, the hurt and the shame and the guilt and the remorse from things that weren't my fault, I still carried them like they were.
But it was definitely a temporary feeling, correct? Because you would sober up and be like, I want to go back to drinking again, because I like how that made me feel.
Oh, yeah. I wanted to do that as often as possible. Please sign me up.
Right.
And not only that, I discovered, somebody would say, here, take this. And I'd say, okay. I wouldn't really ask what it was until, I don't even know if I asked afterwards, but here, smoke this. Okay. And so I didn't realize I was smoking PCP by the time I was 15.
Whoa.
And had no idea that that's what I was smoking. I just knew I would smoke it and I would become incapacitated. So I wanted to do that as often as possible, too, because it numbed everything, and I didn't have to feel guilt and shame.
So did you go home and you're on something, like clearly?
No, that didn't happen. I think maybe that happened once when I was around 15. But see, both of my mom and my stepfather smoked weed, and my dad smoked weed. So I would steal it from them. It was like that commercial. I don't know if you ever saw the commercial. You're grounded. Where did you get this? From you, Dad. You know what I mean? So, anyway, I would get in lots of trouble. And I thought, if you're smoking it, you should be smoking it with me. And my dad strongly disagreed. I would end up getting into a lot of trouble as I grew up. I started running away at 14 because my mom said I couldn't live with my dad. And so I ran away. I didn't get my way. I just took off. And then...
Where would you run away to? You just go wherever?
The first time I went, just friends of friends and staying out in the country somewhere. And I ended up calling my mom because it was very scary. But I called my mom and she cried and said, if you want to live with your dad that bad, please come home, call him, and have him come get you. And so I did. I had my stepfather come pick me up. And so they came and got me, and my stepmom made it very clear on the ride home that it would not be fun and games, that there were things that would be expected of me, and responsibilities, and all of the things that sounded awful to me.
That's not what I signed up for.
Very unreasonable that you're going to want me to do stuff. And so it was awful. It was very strict, very, very strict. So, which was probably a good thing. I needed strictness, but I was so into the journey of changing the way that I felt. There was nothing that was going to stop me at that point. So when I realized that I was not going to be able to do what I wanted, I just ran away from my dad.
To go do what you wanted.
Yes. And then a friend that knew where I was, my dad said, just please tell me where she is, and I won't hurt her. I just want her home. I want her safe. And he went and got me. The guy told him where I was, and my dad picked me up and brought me home, and I didn't even get into my bedroom. We had a trailer, and the doors slide, and so I'm sliding the door shut and walk into the room. I didn't even get in there before I hear the door sliding open, and my dad coming at me with a belt, and it was horrific. He beat me.
Like black and blue?
Yes.
Like...
Yeah, I had bruises all over me. And I mean...
Were you going to school at this time?
Yes. But now I had run away, so I don't know. Like, I ended up dropping out midterm of 10th grade or something. And I skipped a year. I mean, I had to go back a year because I was, from the time I was 14 until 17, I was a runaway. And I was either in juvenile detention, living on the streets, or I would come home every once in a while. My mom would fatten me up a little bit and get me well, and then I would take off again. She'd buy me some nice clothes, and I'd be gone. And, you know, I got really sick and lots of health issues because of, I mean, I was living like a homeless person sometimes, you know. I had to do what I had to do.
But it wasn't just your alcohol or drug abuse. It was, I'm only going to assume you weren't staying hydrated with the right stuff.
Oh, no.
You weren't eating healthy.
I mean, I wasn't doing anything.
You probably eaten a bite of something just because you, whatever.
Every once in a while, yeah. And when I ran away, I'm trying to think if it was the second time. It was the second time, because I ran away from my dad again after he beat me. I guess he thought that was going to keep me there, but it didn't. And I was with a group of people. One of the people I was with committed armed robbery. So I was accessory to armed robbery at 15.
Whoa.
I don't know, 16, 15, something like that. I think maybe 15. And nothing really ever happened with that. I mean, I didn't know that's what was going on.
Right, you didn't know the extent.
I didn't know. I just knew that this guy was trying to help me, which, you know, made me feel even worse. He probably would not have done that had I not run away, and he needed to help me. So he's the same one that told my dad where I was the first time I ran away, and he would never tell my dad again. So he got in a lot of trouble. I mean, he went to prison for that. But when I got caught, we had run from Shreveport back to Oklahoma. That's how smart I am. I hate Oklahoma, but I'm going to run from Shreveport back there. And we broke into my mom's house, my stepfather. It was a big thing. So I got caught in Oklahoma City and needed to be extradited back to Louisiana, but I was a teenager. Nobody was going to come get me. So my dad said, I'll come get you. And he came to pick me up with handcuffs and chains. He chained me to the seat. Smart man. I would have run away from him.
Oh, I was supposed to say.
But that just paints a picture, though, because, like, it clearly was something that they expected.
Yeah, he knew I was going to run.
Right.
But the thing that was devastating, and this was a really pivotal point in my life, was that he brought one of the people that hurt me when I was a kid. And what that said to me was, you don't count. Nothing about you matters.
Oh.
And there was like a, I don't know. I mean, I literally felt like something broke inside of me.
And it's not like he forgot that you mentioned that this person was doing dirty things to you.
Yeah. I mean, I guess he thought he was doing the right thing for this person to keep an eye on me, to keep me from running. But, you know, like I said, I think that he had to believe that that didn't really happen in order to continue to live with himself, I think.
Denial.
Yeah. Because it happened on his watch, you know. So from that moment on, I thought, you know, nothing I do counts. I'm going to do all the drugs and drink all the alcohol and do all the boys that I can get my legs around. I mean, it doesn't matter anyway.
Now,
That's what I'm good for.
I'm curious, did you still have that thought process even when you were sober? Or it was only when you were on a drug or drunk that you were like, I'll go screw anything, you know what I mean?
No, I couldn't really do that unless I was drunk. But I didn't think I was worth anything, whether I was drinking or not.
So you were like, at least I'm getting attention. At least I'm getting, I'm getting something from somebody.
Yeah. And
so what led to all that? Like the drinking, the pot, and then being sexually active.
Yes.
What do you think the root is that caused all that?
Well, I mean, I'm sure it's the stuff I went through as a little girl, and then, you know, when you do drugs and drink, you lower your inhibitions and things that I wouldn't normally do to begin with.
Right.
I would do when I got drunk or high, and then when I realized, oh, I've done this, you know what I mean? It became easier when I wasn't drinking or getting high. But then I developed a problem, and I've got to feed that problem, and that if that means I have to do things to get money or drugs or whatever I gotta get.
Your survival mode, basically.
I get you. If I do this, I get something out of it.
And
that makes sense.
You know, awful way to live, but it is what it is. And I hated it, and I hated me. But I couldn't stop. Like I would go through periods of having so many consequences because I drank. I mean, I burned my friend's house down.
What?
Explain.
Yeah.
Explain.
Okay.
Yeah, we got.
You burned the house down.
I burned my friend Roger. God bless him. We've been friends since the 4th grade. I had been staying at my dad's. I was doing the back and forth from Irving. We had moved to Irving by this time when I was 18. My dad got sober when I was 19 and became the guy that I always knew he was underneath that haze of alcohol and anger. And salt of the earth is who he was when he was sober. So by this time he realizes that I have a real problem and he's trying to help me, but he's trying to help I'm too far gone. Yeah. I mean, so my dad wanted to help me. He tried to help me, bless his heart. He had gone to treatment. When I was 19, he called. I was living in Irving. He called to tell me that he was an alcoholic. Like, I was not aware of that. And so I told him that I was proud of him, and he cried, and it was a big deal. And he got involved in a recovery program, and I would go visit and go to meetings with him. But, that was great for him. I needed to go. I mean, I'd go to a meeting with him and be looking at my watch, or, it's time to go. I got to have things to do and people to see. So, I would do the back and forth thing. I lived with my mom for a while. I worked in a topless bar with her. I was waiting tables. My mom was waiting tables in the VIP section, and I started waiting tables downstairs and made a lot of money.
And I'm sure you felt like you fit in because of your lifestyle as it was, the drugs.
Well, because of the things that happened in my childhood, I knew I couldn't dance because I knew it would take one weirdo to say something to me, and I would not be okay. Off. So I just thought waiting tables would be fine. And I was able to support my habit for a little while, but I had gone back to Shreveport, back and forth. And we call that a geographical cure, and it never works. Well, usually it doesn't. So what my dad said was, Angela, I love you, and I want you to be a part of the family. By this time, my little brother Daniel had been born, and he's not seeing me behave the way Sean saw me behave. Sean saw things he should never have had to see from his sister. I was not a good sister when we got older. So he said, I want you to be a part of this family, but the way you're behaving, you're coming in at 4 o'clock in the morning drunk and, all the things I was doing, you can't do that. You can't be here. You're going to have to either get it together or you have to go. Well, now that's what he said, but what I heard was pack your things
and go
and leave, because I knew I was never going to be able to do any of the things he asked me to do. So I asked my friend Roger, I called him and said, can I just stay with you for a little while? And Roger, knowing me full well, Roger's one of the ones that tried to chase me down on a regular basis to get me to not drive after I'd been drinking. Angela, go home.
He's a good friend.
Very good friend.
Good friend, hold you accountable.
Yes. And so when I asked if I could stay there, he was also an iron worker. He was out of town a lot, and he would leave his vehicle at his house and fly somewhere and be gone. And he said, you can stay, but remember, I live on a property with my parents. His parents lived on the property. His brother and my best friend at the time lived on the same property. So it was a little commune of those people. And his little house was a cute little house, and they had converted it from a machine shop into a house. It was perfect for him.
It was a cute little house?
Was a cute little house. Very little house. And so I was staying over there. He said, if you're going to be here, you have to be just you. And you can't be over here acting a fool. If you want to go drink or get high somewhere, that's fine. But get dropped off and keep it cool. Because my parents, I said, okay. Roger, of course I'll behave.
Duh.
And so, do you know who I am? Don't you know who I am? He's like, yes, that's why I'm telling you this. So I decided, I had taken a bunch of Valium and drank one night and decided that I was hungry and I was going to cook some chicken on the stove, and ended up cutting my foot on a glass, and I was bleeding all over his carpet, and I knew he was going to kill me when he got home because I had blood everywhere on the floor. And I went in the bathroom to stop the bleeding, and shut the door. And by the time, I never did get the bleeding to stop. It was one of those right under my toe. It bled forever. And so, yes, it wouldn't stop. And so when I opened the door, I finally gave up on trying to stop the bleeding. I opened the door and the house was filled with smoke. And I thought, oh God, I forgot about the chicken on the stove, which caught the vent on top on fire. And so I'm inebriated, and I'm trying to think, is it salt? What do you throw on a grease fire? Because I can't think.
Do you throw grease on grease?
No, I'm thinking
I know that's not funny, but
I only have water. And so I filled up a bucket. It wasn't really a bucket. It's like a pot that you cook with. Filled it up with water and tried to throw it up on the vent. And I finally got the fire out, and then realized I couldn't breathe. So I opened the door, the outside door, sat down on the couch, and what I didn't realize, because I nodded off, was that reignited the fire, the oxygen from opening the door. So I came to with Roger's father pulling me out of the house. And like I said, my best friend lived there with Roger's brother, and the fire department was there. It's the middle of the night, and I'm in like a nightgown or barely anything, drunk.
Lost a ton of blood.
Yes, and I remember my best friend, her name's Gina, she leaned down and said, when is it going to be enough? When are you going to be done? And my stock answer for that, since I was 14, was, I don't know. Because people ask me, why do you do the things you do? Why do you behave the way you behave? Why do you hurt you know what I mean? It's a constant cycle of I'm always getting hurt. And I did it to myself because I'm never in control of my faculties if I'm wasted. So when she asked me that, I said, I don't know. I don't know.
So the place burned down, by the way?
To the ground. Whoa. There was nothing left.
So you're telling me Roger saved you when you were
Roger's dad.
Roger's dad, okay.
Uh-huh.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
So you almost lost your life.
Yeah,
if it
Roger
wasn't for...
was out of town. And
oh, my gosh.
It was a big thing. The fire department had to pull his truck with a winch away from the house because nobody had his keys. The truck was going to explode. You know what I mean?
Right.
All of those things. It was a big thing. Like, charges could have been pressed on me, but they didn't. They said it was accidental. Well, it was accidental because I was drunk. So it was devastating. Roger didn't talk to me for a while after that. We are friends today. He still loves me, but it took him a couple months.
Roger.
Thanks, Roger.
Yes.
And Roger's dad.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
And yes. So, and it's like in a small town, everybody's always talking about, like, what is Angela doing now? I was the girl, if you were having a hard time with your boyfriend and he was like on you about your drinking, you would come get me and take me out with you, and you would say, look at her. See, I'm good. See,
you were an example, living example.
I was acting a fool everywhere we went, and it was just bad. And, the thing is, I wanted to get wasted. I kind of wanted to be able to behave like a lady, but they never coincide. I just would get wasted and act a fool, and then I would come to the next day and not remember what I did. Do I know where I am? Sometimes I was safe, sometimes I wasn't. A lot of times I wasn't, and I'm really amazed that I'm still alive. So my dad did his best to help me. He did plant the seed, the recovery program seed, because he stayed sober for a while, and he ended up having a heart attack when, I think it was like a couple of years after he got sober. And I think that heart attack, he thought, I'm sober now, bad things aren't supposed to happen. And that was the beginning of his end, because he ended up relapsing again, and he did.
Oh, so when he had the heart attack, he didn't pass away from that?
No, he had a heart attack. He did eventually pass away from a heart attack, but not that one.
Got you.
And so, it was difficult, but he got to see me sober before he died. So, the whole house burning down thing, I had a friend that lived in Dallas. She came and got me. And, I started doing IV drugs off and on when I was 18. I was addicted to crack when I was 19. It was always something. Because what I would do is I would become addicted to one thing, and usually it was the alcohol that I had such bad consequences from. I would just not drink. As long as I don't drink, I can shoot up and I'll be okay.
Right, but one addiction led you to another addiction.
And then I would start doing that, and I would do that into the ground, and then I would need to change things up, and so I would smoke crack, because, that's a great drug. And it was the thought never occurred to me, maybe I should just quit everything, because then I would be left alone with me. And I make it a point to never be left alone with me, because I hate me, right? So I think I was 27. I had moved back to Dallas. It's such a blur. There's so many different things. My mom had told me that I could not live with her again, and rightly so. I was an a-hole. And I moved to Dallas. I lived off Royal and 75 in a little condo, and I was working at a topless bar, but I don't remember. No, I worked at La Bear for a while, the male strip club. I worked the front door there. And then I worked at Paradise City in Arlington. And so I had this little condo. People would come over and share drugs with me because they could use my condo to have privacy, because the kind of drugs I was doing, you had to have privacy. And so my mom worked the day shift at this club, and I worked the night shift at the door, and she was managing this particular club. And I saw her in passing one day. I got there, and she was leaving, and I was showing up, and she stopped me, and she said, I don't know what it is you're doing now, but it looks like you're going to die. And I said, she's just jealous. I'm looking great. Yes, I'm a -0, whatever, size, covered in sores. I put makeup all over my skin to hide the marks, and just so delusional that I actually thought that my mother was just giving me a hard time. She was the nutcase. Yeah. So I think it was probably about a week or two after that my mom called me. And I have a cousin that's been sober for a really long time. Excuse me. And my mom had been talking to her about how I was looking. And so this cousin told my mom what to do with me. And what she did was, because my mom would pay my bills and she would buy me groceries, not that I was eating them, but, if I needed something, she would take care of it. She always rescued me, always. And so this cousin told her, you are loving her to death. You're killing her, is what you're doing. And if you don't stop, she's going to die. And so my mom could hear that finally. So she called me one day and said, I need to come by and talk to you. And I only had the condo because of her. It was a friend of hers that rented it to me, and she had been paying the bills because the little bit of money I did have went on cab fare to get to Arlington from Dallas or dope. And so she came to the door, and I invited her in, and she said, no, I don't want to come in. I just need to talk to you. I've been talking to my cousin, and she has decided that she would let you come stay with her. You could go down there and stay with her, and she would help you get clean. And I'm not going to pay your way anymore. I'm not buying your groceries. I'm not going to enable you any longer. I'm letting you go with love. And I thought that was the dumbest thing I'd ever heard in my life. And I said, well, what? She's going to save me after all these years? No, that's fine. Thanks, but no thanks. And so my mom told me later that what she did was she got out in the parking lot and she just said a prayer and asked God to please take care of me, that she knew that I was just on loan to her, that I was not hers to keep, and that she just wanted him to take care of me. And so it was probably within a week of that happening, it was like I had a girl staying with me. She went away. All of the people that were coming over and using the condo, everybody just went away. And all of a sudden I was left alone with me, which is, we hate that. We don't want that.
Right. Yeah.
And I had no more bargaining. My whole life had been, I was terrified of God, but I always did those foxhole prayers. If you'll do this, I'll do that. If you'll do this, I'll do that. And they finally got to the point where I was like, we both know I'm going to do it again. I'll try to do it differently if you'll help a sister out one more time. But still thinking that God is this mean guy, right? And so I had all this time alone. I'm trying to get ready for work. I'm crying my makeup off, trying to put it back on, and finally said the most honest prayer I had ever said, which was just, God help me. I can't do this anymore. And so I took a cab to work, and while I was at work, the thought occurred to me that maybe I should call my mom and see if I could come stay with her. And so I did, and she said, come over here when you get off and we'll talk. And I went over there and asked her, and she said, I don't know, I'm going to have to call your cousin tomorrow and see what she thinks.
Knowing she'd say yes.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I don't know. At that point,
right.
I did not
You're
know.
Like crossing your fingers at this point.
Yes, please. I didn't want to move to North Carolina or wherever it was she was living. Mm-hmm. So my mom talked to her the next day, and she gave her a list of things to do. She said, that's up to you if you want to let her live with you, but you need to tell her, since she doesn't have a job right now that she needs to keep, I need to get out of the bar business, that she needs to make 90 meetings in 90 days and that she needs to get a sponsor and she has to work the steps. No questions asked, no way around it. That's the only way that you'll allow her to live there. I'm so grateful she did that because I had to stick to it. My mom meant business. And so I immediately went to meetings and got a sponsor and started working the steps and confessed a whole bunch of things that I'd been carrying around that really didn't even belong to me. Things from my childhood that it was just like finally I got the same relief in that 12-step program that I got from alcohol. I just didn't act a fool, you know what I mean? And it was a slower process. I was still terrified and really couldn't look people in the face. I could tell you every detail of your shoes, but looking you in the eyes, it took me a while to be able to do that. I had a really great sponsor. We had a lot of things in common, and I think I was right at 11 months sober. I had gone to see my dad for Father's Day.
And you're at what age at this point?
I am 27.
Okay.
27.
This is 1997.
Okay.
And I went to see my dad, saw him for Father's Day, and saw my brother, and things weren't good there. My dad was drinking again, and my stepmom wasn't happy. You know, she'd put up with a whole bunch of stuff for 24 years. She finally got the courage to leave. My brother was living there with my dad. And when my stepmom left, my dad just went full throttle. And so I was 11 months sober, and my brother called, and my dad drank himself to death, basically. He had a massive heart attack. So that was devastating.
And did you witness that?
No, my brother was with him. My brother was with him when it happened. He tried CPR, and it was, I'm sure it was awful for him.
Oh,
yes. Man. And they hadn't been that close when my brother was growing up. So in a way, it was kind of a fitting thing that he get to be the one, although I hate that was a devastating thing, but in a way they got to spend like a week together. Even though he was drinking, they had their moment, you know.
I know.
And my brother got to be there to at least try to save him.
Right.
So I went back home. My mom, I'd been sober, like I said, 11 months, and we went back to Shreveport to be of service to my family, and we buried my dad. And I when you get clean and sober, depending on where you go, they have little symbols of, like, if you want to get a desire chip or a keychain or whatever to solidify your desire to stay sober. And so I was able to put my desire chip in my dad's pocket and bury him with that. And that meant a great deal to me. It also meant a great deal to me that he got to see me sober before he died.
Absolutely.
So I was grateful for that, but I missed him a great deal. And like just being able to call him and hear his voice, you know, it was hard. And so after that happened, I didn't become disillusioned with my 12-step program. I just stopped going as much. And then the next thing you know, I was in a meeting one day and a boy walked in. He had a cute butt, and I thought I needed to follow it. And so that's what I did. And he wasn't very nice, but he had a really cute butt, and that's all I cared about. And so I started, if I could just get him to act right, then I would be okay. This is a pattern for me. It's like if I could just get my dad to act right when I was little, I would be okay. Well, I would choose men like that as well. And so he didn't treat me all that great, so we bought a condo together because I thought that was a great idea. You know, my thinking was skewed, but he became more important than my sobriety. And I started, like, he would do awful things, and I would relapse at him. I'll show you, I'll hurt me. And so
so you were doing good before all that.
Yes, before.
You were on the road.
Yeah,
so.
and I really do think it was my dad's death that kind of started the downward spiral.
You're grieving, yes.
Yeah, and I didn't really like dig into the program. Instead, I made less meetings, and I became way more focused on what the boy was doing, and it just didn't last. And I would, like I said, I would relapse at him, and then I would get sober again, and I'd stay sober 90 days, or I think like 3 years was the longest I would stay clean. And then in 1999, I got pregnant, and I didn't think I could get pregnant because of all the problems I had as a kid, and, living on the streets, not taking care of myself. I had a lot of issues. And so I got pregnant, and I was amazed and so grateful. I'd always wanted a baby, but all of a sudden now I'm realizing who I'm having a baby with. And after she was born, there were some behaviors. I thought, you know what, I'm not raising my daughter the
like
way
no
I was
support.
raised. No, well, I mean, like she had colic and she'd be screaming, and there was no, what can I do to help you? It was
what's colic for anybody who doesn't know what that is?
It's stomach pain, it's gas basically is what it is.
Like build up?
But it causes them to scream. I mean, they're very uncomfortable. They scream for hours on end, and never did he say, what can I do to help you? It was, what is wrong with her? So I felt like I had to protect her from him, you know? So I moved back in with my mom when she was 11 months old. My aunt was living with my mom with her daughter. She and her husband had split up, and so we moved over there, and I just kind of stopped going to meetings because I just figured, I probably wasn't even really an alcoholic. I was probably just having a run of bad luck. Yeah, and so delusional thinking again.
For sure.
And so I decided one day that I was going to test my theory. I had to have surgeries too. I started having a lot of surgeries for like endometriosis, which is a female thing. It causes a great deal of pain, and I would have surgery, and I would be prescribed all these pain meds, and they were wonderful. I thought they were, an amazing thing.
I understand.
Who came up with these things? I need more.
Because you get addicted to it.
Yes, and that's what I did. And so it was right around that time. I discovered that I really loved the pain pills, and there was a muscle relaxer they slipped in there too. And so I would take those things and behave a lot like I did when I was drunk, except for when I was drunk I would black out and still be standing up, walking around. Nobody knew I was in a blackout except for the fact that I was acting crazy. But the pills would make me pass out. So I would lose it. Like my daughter, I'd be at the store and just fall out. And God bless that baby. She was two or three when I relapsed. And I relapsed on the pills, but then I started thinking I probably wasn't really an alcoholic. Because my thinking was skewed again. I wasn't working a program. I was not on the right path. And so I went to the liquor store and got some Crown, which was my drink of choice, and I drank it, and I fell in the kitchen and broke my toe, and I called my daughter's father and told him what I really thought of him. And to me, that was an extremely successful night. I must not be an alcoholic. And I was just off and running. And I would drink, or I would, the pills, of course, it was a constant thing because you go through withdrawals without them. It's very painful. But I learned if I didn't have enough pills, I could do some meth, and it would kind of offset the pain. So I started doing meth again. November 27th of 2004, I had taken all of my pain meds. I was out of them, and I was being prescribed 240 of them a month, and I was taking them within the first week. So we went to Shreveport to visit family, and I needed to go buy pain pills. I had to support my habit. I couldn't be sick. And so I put my child in the back seat. I didn't have a car seat. I strapped her in her seatbelt.
And she was how old?
4.
Okay.
This is 2004. And I took off, and I don't remember anything other than coming to with lights, and I could hear her scream.
Oh, you're in an accident.
I was in an accident. And I had no idea the severity of what had happened. I just knew that I hear my baby crying, and I don't know what's going on. And the police officer, I remember him saying, "Have you been drinking?" And I said, "No." And they took my blood, and I had a prescription for everything that was in my system. So I barely got a slap on the wrist, but I had to lay next to my child.
Was it a car accident?
It was a car accident. I ran off the road and hit a stop sign or something awful, and put my child in intensive care for 4 days. And there was something wrong with my neck, but as far as I was concerned, I deserved it, and I didn't care. We don't have to do scans. We don't have I deserve whatever I've got.
And what happened to your daughter? Like, what was her injuries?
Her eyes were swollen shut. Her head was swollen. It was horrific. It wasn't just a little bump on the head. It was horrific. And I had to lay next to her for 4 days knowing that I'm the one that did that to her. And it was, it just solidified everything I already felt about myself. I hated me to begin with, and it's just one more reason to hate me. And so what I did was, it scared me clean. Temporarily, I went to a 12-step program, but I went across town where no one knew me, because there was a place close to where I lived where everybody knew and loved me. And I was so ashamed I couldn't go there. And so I went to this place across town and started working the steps and got a sponsor, but I didn't do the work necessary to stay that way. So the minute I found a bag of dope in my aunt's car, I was off and running again. And I thought, well, I just need to stay away from the pills. Same thing. Just stay away from the alcohol, stay away from the pills, and you'll be okay. Just do meth, because that makes sense. And so that's what I did. And it was like a year later, my mom was finally at that point where she was done with me again. And she's the one taking care of my kid. Thank God, because I would have killed her. You know, I'm just living in that house, and my mom is being the mom. So it was October 3rd of 2005, my aunt was in a really bad car accident. My mom's sister, the one that lived with us, and their mother, my grandmother, died that same day. 2 days later, I was arrested for possession of meth and burglary. Now, I wasn't robbing anyone. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but there was no way I was going to fight that charge. Yeah. Your Honor, no, sir. Right. Yeah, they don't care. No. And so I went to jail, and I had like about 3 weeks. My mom wouldn't take my calls. I would like call and she would hang up, and I got arrested with my uncle. We do things in the family. So he was with me at the place where we weren't supposed to be, and I'm the one that had drugs in my purse. He didn't, but he got arrested for burglary, and I got both charges. And after about 3 weeks, it took me about 3 weeks, I sat there and thought about, oh, woe is me, how sad my life was. And if I hadn't been abused when I was little, and if I hadn't had a violent father, and if I hadn't had this, and if I hadn't had that, then I wouldn't be the mess that I am today. Until finally one day I had this epiphany of, yeah, some sad things happened in your childhood. You're arrested because you broke the law. I'm in jail because I broke the law. My kid has a scar on her nose because I wrecked a car. No one did that to me. I did that. And the moment I had that feeling, it was like, oh, thank God. Because it's like my sponsor that I would get later on always told me, Angela, if someone else is the problem, there is no solution. If you're the problem, then we have something to work with. So it was so much freedom knowing I did this to me. Nobody did it to me. And so I have to face my consequences. And it took probably another month or so before I went to court and they released me. But in like 5 years probation and 200 and some odd hours of community service. And my mom was not happy that I was coming home. She said, I want you to go to long-term treatment. And I was so mad. But I just wanted to be my daughter's mother. Mm-hmm. But my mom had been being her mother, so I had to do what she said. It's her house. So I went. I knew who I wanted to be my sponsor. I had seen her at a meeting, a month before I got arrested, and she had walked up to me and grabbed my hands and held my arms out because, of course, I had makeup all over my arms trying to hide track marks. And she said, when you're ready, call me, and I'll help you in any way that I can. And so I knew that that's who I wanted to be my sponsor. And when I got out, I called her. I went to a meeting and met her at the meeting and asked if she would sponsor me. And her first words were, are you willing to go to any lengths to stay sober? And I said, yes, ma'am. She said, okay, and gave me a list of things that I had to do if I wanted her to be my sponsor. And so when she jumped, I said, yes. Well, when she said jump, I said, yes, ma'am. How high? How high? How high would you like me to jump? Yes, because I wanted what she had. Mm-hmm. And she was so filled with unconditional love, you know. And I needed that bad because I didn't love me. And she loved me until I could love myself. And so I got busy working the steps. The one thing that I didn't do when I was in the program before was I was not of service to anyone. I kept it. And they say you got to give it away to keep it. I never really gave it away. I mean, I did, as long as it didn't interfere with my day. Mm-hmm. And that's not service, as I was told. So am I allowed to say it was your mom?
Absolutely.
Your mom was my sponsor and the greatest woman that ever lived.
I was like waiting for him, like, say it.
I wanted to like say, is it okay to say?
I'm like, but I don't want to cut her off. So my mom was her sponsor.
Yes.
Like,
greatest.
Which, it literally is so amazing.
Yeah.
It goes to show, guys, everything comes in full circle.
Full circle, absolutely.
Yeah. She saved my life. And so, she got me busy doing service work. There was never an excuse for no service. But now, if there was something going on at the school with my kid, you will not miss anything with your child. Your child is extremely important. And you've missed enough with her. So you're going to be her mom. And you're going to make a meeting every day. Not that it says that anywhere in our literature, but you're going to do it because you're not working right now. And because you need to keep your mind occupied. So she just told me what to do.
So she put you to work.
Yes. And I was so grateful. And And my mom, who wanted me to go to long-term treatment, when I told your mom, I was like, my mom wants me to go to long-term treatment. I don't want to do that. And she said, you said you were willing to go to any lengths to stay sober, so I suggest you get to looking for treatment if that's what you have to do to live with her. And I said, okay, yes, ma'am. And I continued to look, but nobody would take me because I'd been clean too long. Yeah. And I'm thinking, well, do I have to relapse to get in there? And luckily, I talked to your mom about that first. She said, no, that's not a good idea.
Absolutely
not going to do that, Angela.
Literally.
Just keep going to meetings and keep doing the next right thing. So all of a sudden, my life became like so amazing. I was free of all of these secrets and things that I had held on to my whole life, things that weren't even mine to hold on to. But while I was out there, I created a whole bunch of stuff that was mine. You know what I mean? I was a jerk, ripping through the lives of other people. I did harm. I harmed people. I was a taker. I would suck the life out of your area just to get what I needed. You know, if you had pills, or if you had money, or if you had, I don't know, if I've got to mess around with your husband, or depending upon how much alcohol's involved, your wife. It just doesn't, you know what I mean?
I get you. No,
because
I get you.
I just had to fill that hole in my soul. That's what I was trying to do, was fill that hole in my soul with everything other than God. And God, for me, is the only thing that will fill that hole. And so your mom taught me how to create my own connection with a higher power, and that it didn't have to be the God of my childhood who was mean, and that God was good and only interested in helping me. So we ended up getting our own place. We moved out when Lana was 8, because it was suggested by that cousin that, you know, Angela, you need to have your own place, because living with your mom, she's always going to be the mom. And my mom was not happy about that. She wanted us to stay with her. But she knew, in order for me to stay sober, that I needed to do the next right thing, which was move out. And so that's what we did. And it was probably within that year that my daughter started behaving really weird. Like, she was always very polite, sassy, because she's mine, of course, but like, yes ma'am, no ma'am, constantly respectful, and really respectful in front of other people. All of a sudden, she started like yelling at me and telling me she wasn't going to do this or wasn't going to do that, and I'm thinking, oh God, she's got whatever her dad has. And then, you know, sorry, but all of a sudden one day she said, Mom, it hurts when I do this. So I hadn't looked at her yet. I just did the usual, well, don't do that. And when I looked at her, she was leaning back, and this thing on her neck was huge. And I thought, oh God. Well, it was her thyroid was enlarged. It's Graves' disease, and it causes your thyroid to be overactive. It can kill you. Thyroid storm can happen and you can die, and there's only 2 medications for it. And the first one she had a reaction to. The second one was okay. She was stabilized on that for a while. We ended up moving to Everman. I bought a house in Everman, and when she was 13, it came back. Wow. So she got really, really sick, and you know, I had no idea how. I mean, I would take her to her appointments, and I would call your mom, and I would cry, and I mean, she was so sick. We would drive down the road, and she would lean her little head up against the window because she had no energy to even raise her head. And she would ask me, am I going to die from this? Oh my gosh. And what do you say to that? I mean, of course, I hope not. Let's talk to the doctor, you know? And your mom she just loved me through that and told me what to do. I mean, on a day-to-day basis, sometimes I had to be told, okay, you're going to go to the store and you're going to get groceries today. And you know what I mean? She just walked me through life because I was devastated. And I did not know how to sort through that sickness. And they ended up radiating her thyroid, which shrinks the thyroid. And I got a second opinion because when they suggested it, I just had a feeling in my gut that we shouldn't do it. But the specialist said we should, so I did it. And she got sicker than ever and annihilated her stomach. And so then she had to have a GI doctor, and it was the GI doctor said basically she's got Crohn's-like symptoms without the Crohn's disease. Oh, wow. And so she spent years under the care of a thyroid doctor, an endocrinologist, and a GI doctor. And so it was difficult. I had to homeschool her, and we got through it. But I mean, like right around the time she was 17, her stomach kind of started to heal. It was a very long, drawn-out process. And I would get asked to go tell my story somewhere or do the steps or whatever because your mom taught me that's what service is the secret, and that's what we do. But I would be in the middle of thinking, oh my God, I can't go tell my story tonight. I'm worried about my kid. But I wanted your mom to be my sponsor, so I did it. And so I would go do it, and magically, after I did whatever it was that needed to be done, I wouldn't be so worried anymore because I knew God got it. God's got it. That's the magic of service. Being of service, it saves the day when all else fails. Here I am over here wadded up because I got to go do something for somebody.
But I know how it made you feel initially.
Yes.
Towards her. Was she supportive? Was she like, you'd rather go do this and be here and take care of me? Was it ever?
My daughter, Lana? No. Well, when she was 5, when I was going to meetings every day, she would say, "You're going to a meeting again?" And I would say, "Yes, baby. They help me be a good mom." She would say, "You are a good mom." I said, "See, the meetings are working." By the time she was 12 or 13, she would look at me and say, "Mom, please go to a meeting. You're crazy. I need you to go to a meeting." She knows. She is my biggest supporter ever. Greatest thing that ever happened to me. So glad I didn't do more damage.
Right.
She's the one that told me to do this. "Mom, you got to do that." I'm like, "I don't know, Lana. I might throw up." She's like, "No, you won't. You never do. Just do it. You'll be fine."
I love her.
So yeah, she has been really the greatest blessing ever. It's like the wreck, we'll talk about the wreck, and I say, "Well, that was my fault." And she says, "Mom, no, that was not your fault." It's like, "Yeah, honey, it wasn't my fault. I took drugs. I overtook my medication. I wrecked and I hurt you." And she's like, "You know what? That wasn't you. I refuse to believe that was you."
Wow.
So like how you felt towards your dad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Everything comes full
Wow.
circle.
Yes.
And your daughter's looking at you in the same light.
That's
Yes.
beautiful.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I think back over my life, I wonder, why I'm still here. I know, I share one-on-one with women. I work with other women. I have a sponsor today. I had to I have a sponsor. It's different, but I'm grateful for her. I've grown in different ways that I would not have grown if your mom was still my sponsor, I'll never...
She still sponsors you.
Yes,
and you don't
from
even
above.
know.
In spirit,
She does
yes.
sponsor me from above.
She's checking you
And
every day.
I hear her tell me things, do this or
Angela.
do that. Angela.
You're screwing up today.
Oh my God, I love that woman so much. She was so precious, and I know she sent me the sponsor that I have today. I felt her nudging me. I had a different sponsor that really wasn't making me do any work, and so I got complacent and I wasn't working on me. I was still carrying the message, but I wasn't growing myself.
Right.
I was stagnant.
So how long have you been sober? Like
19 years. October 7th of 2005 is my sobriety date.
Amazing.
So I was arrested the 5th, but I chose the 7th as my sobriety date because I had a bunch of chemicals in my system. So I figured I'd give myself a couple of days to let those clear out. It took me a couple of days to really fully believe they're not going to let me go.
Right.
I'm stuck here. I hate it here. So, yeah.
So how long again you been sober?
Will be 19 years in October.
19 years.
October
19 years in
7th
October.
will be 19 years.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Like that, the will, the strength.
Yeah.
Was there a point in between there like, oh, I might relapse again?
Well, in my first year back at the house with my mom and my aunt, I told you my aunt was in a really bad car accident. She had a brain injury. So her husband took her daughter from school before my mom got there to get her one day. So it was our whole world was turned upside down. My mom didn't even get to go to her mother's funeral because I was in jail and she's trying to pick up the pieces and take care of her sister and be at the hospital. And so my aunt would grieve. When she finally got home, she had to learn how to walk and talk and do all the things over again. And she would cry because it's like she didn't realize her daughter was gone at first. She didn't realize she had a daughter at first. And with each discovery of what was going on, she would cry, and it was so painful to watch. I thought, I know how to fix this. I don't feel things well. I don't want to feel things. So I would think, I know what I need to do. I just need to make a phone call. And then I would look at my baby and think, nope, I'm not losing her again. No one is going to be her mom but me. I am not doing that. Yeah. And so that was the first year. After about a year, I just never really thought about it. You go to the liquor store, or not even the liquor store, the gas station, there's beer everywhere, whatever. I never really thought about that, but I had been cleaning houses for a while, and I went to clean for a lady that I didn't know very well one day. And I I'd clean everything. I'd pick things up and clean underneath it. Well, I picked up a candle, and when I did that, there was a little bag of white substance. And I thought, ooh, oh, wow. That was my first experience with that. That was about 3 years of sobriety. So I finished cleaning, immediately called your mom and said, so I guess I can't clean for her anymore. And she said, Angela, how much money are you making off that little apartment? I said, $60. She said, are you making enough money to be without that $60 right now? And I said, not really. She said, then you make sure you're in fit spiritual condition and you go clean that apartment. And if you're not, you don't go. It's like, wow. She's a genius.
Yes,
thought, oh, okay.
Solution.
I can do that.
There
Just
you
like
go.
Going into the store, there's
Problem
liquor.
solved.
I don't have to drink it.
Yeah.
I don't have to do whatever. I mean, I didn't know that woman very well, but she never asked me to clean again. And I did not take that substance.
Interesting.
I didn't steal it.
It was almost like God's test.
Yes.
To see how much.
I was thinking the same.
Yeah.
You're getting tested. Mm-hmm. You're always going to get tested.
Always.
So I'm sure audience out there can really relate that have alcohol problem and relapse and so
any
thank
addiction.
you for any addiction and
there's
Angela,
all
thank
kinds
you
of
for sharing that.
Yes,
Your
there's
strength.
all kinds of programs out there. It's
Yes.
really important to find where you fit because there's an A after so many different things. Find where you fit and go. I think really what's most important to me, I mean, the life that I get to participate in today it's filled with blessings and miracles. It has also been filled with some tragedies, as you know. But had I been doing the deal, drinking and using, I never would have, first of all, I don't think I would have lived very much longer by my own hands, I'm sure. But it's like I get to be fully present for whatever it is that's going on. Fully present, like able to take care of my kid. Not if they prescribe my kid pain meds, I'm not stealing them from her. If they prescribe anyone pain, I'm not rummaging through your medicine cabinet. I'm a person that can be trusted today.
Like self-control.
Yeah, well, not even self-control, just God's grace. To me, it's God's grace because I'm able to be who God would have me be. I pray about every situation. Like doing this, I prayed about it. I had to consult some people and ask, what do you think? Because if it's all about me, I don't want it to be all about me. It's got to be about, like, there are people out there that are hurting, that either with drug addiction or alcoholism or being abused or any of the things, there's help out there for you. And you don't have to live the rest of your life miserably, which is what I was doing. And I was the sole reason I was miserable. You know what I mean? Hanging on to all that hate and all that hurt when there's a better way. And like I said about programs, there's all kinds of programs out there. There's counseling, there's just the thing I love about being in a 12-step program is there's so many like-minded people, and I can call any one of them up at any time of day, and they are there for me. And they taught me, your mom taught me to be that person for them. And what a fulfilling life that is. I get to be the mom that my kid deserves, and she loves me and wants to be with. She's 23 and she wants to be with me. She would rather go out to dinner with me and my friends in the program than go hang out with any of her friends. She is the program helped me raise her. Your mom helped me raise her.
That's amazing.
So I will be forever grateful. Not only that, my dad, he's the one that introduced me to the program that saved my life. So I think about that and think about the damage that my dad caused. He fully redeemed himself by leaving me with this program. I have his little a book, a 24-hour-a-day book that he gave me to read out of. So he's still very much a part of my program, just like your mom.
Absolutely.
And I got married in I got married on my dad's birthday in 2023. Another boy with a cute butt.
I love the story.
Yes.
This time he was a keeper.
Yes, he was a keeper. But not at first. At first he was acting a fool, and I just needed to make him act right because that's my pattern because I'm a sicko. And now today we have a pretty good relationship where we both work on ourselves and we work with each other as a couple.
As a team.
We live a life of service to each other.
He's a good man. I met him.
Yeah.
We met him. Yes.
He's got a cute butt. So, you know.
And I was like, y'all look like y'all are supposed to be together.
So, yeah. I'm tickled with my life today. Even when it sucks, it's way better than it was back then.
Because you have a bigger purpose now.
Yes. And I'm not out here hurting people.
No. Exactly.
I'm trying to help.
And you have a team of people who love you and support you.
Yes, yes, definitely. So, what would you say your silver lining?
My silver lining is, I mean, in my silver lining, the fact that I get to be of service, the fact that all of those tragedies have caused, or not caused, but I can take all of that stuff and use it. It's my greatest asset. You know, all of the things that for so many years I thought were my worst, the worst things that ever happened to me, I'm able to use those things and go to jail or go to the Salvation Army and carry the message to other women. And when you share something that just destroyed you at one point, every time you share it with someone else, it loses a little bit of its power over you. Not only that, it also gives them some hope, and you get to see the light come back on in their eyes, and it is an amazing life that I get to participate in today. I'm very grateful.
That's amazing.
That's amazing story, and we just want to thank you again, Angela, for just allowing you to have you on our second, our special guest.
I'm so excited.
Yes, and we're so ecstatic, and what an honor, guys. And
thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you so much. And it goes to show, guys, that everything comes in full circle. As you heard the whole entire story from her parents, her father, her mother, her closest people, and especially her special Jasmine's mother.
Jazzy.
Yes, Jazzy. And it just amazes me that, just to recap, something that really touched me is when before you went into alcohol and being sexual active and drugs, and you really said something that really stood out, that you felt like you didn't matter. And if I don't have kids, and hopefully in the future I have kids, but if you're a parent out there, and it goes to show, like, do whatever it takes, Jazzy, right, Jazzy? Like,
absolutely.
If
you do matter,
let your kids know, like, they matter. They matter. And because we get in ourselves, we get in our lives, we get in ourself, and then when it's all about ourselves, and then our kids feel like they don't matter, and then guess what? It leads to drugs. It leads to other things that we don't want. Right? Correct?
Yeah. Yes. And to see that your child looks at you like you do matter, and reminds you that you matter is so beautiful.
Yeah, like, so beautiful.
That's amazing.
That's so profound. And again, thanks, Angela.
Thank you. And thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching.
It was amazing being here, all of us watching this experience together. I know it touched my heart. I hope it touched your heart. And as always, we hope that you stay tuned for our next episode where we talk about relationships. It's going to be a little spicy, a little hot and spicy. Okay, we love that.
About singles and
just all
mindset,
all the mindsets and just the good works with that. And so there's a lot of special stuff to come in the future. Thank you for being a part of our family, a part of this podcast journey. Please subscribe to our channel because there's just so many things that we're learning. We don't ever get on here and think, hey, we have all the tools, all the answers. We're healed. We're healing every day. Yeah. So we just want you to be a part of our healing journey as we learn and as we grow. We learn from beautiful, wise people like Angela. Yes. And so so much special stuff to come. Comment below and let us know what part resonated with you, if there's anything. Also, if you want to be able to reach out to Angela, she would love to.
Yes.
If y'all want to have a bonding moment separately, if you feel like you want to reach out to her for any reason, we will put her email in the description below. If she wants to add her social media, we may add that. But if not, we may not. So it just depends. Other than that, it was such a pleasure as always.
It's a pleasure.
Thank you for watching the Jazzy and
Sanya Full Circle Podcast Show, baby.
Yay!
Yay! Woo!